This tutorial assumes you have basic coding knowledge and P2CE beta access. If this does not apply to you, please visit the description.
Hello, and welcome back to another Portal mapping and modding tutorial. I'm your host Orsell, and today we're going to be doing something a bit more different than usual. We're going to be talking about Portal 2 Community Edition's AngelScript, or more specifically Strata, since this is technically also Momentum mod. For those who don't know, AngelScript is a brand new scripting system put into Portal 2 Community Edition, which allows us to do custom entities, new hammer brushes, game events, and vast majority of what is already possible with VScript, but much more closely connected to the game engine than before. This tutorial expects that you understand a bit of programming already. Mainly classes, functions, variables, assignments, if statements, loops, all the stuff that usually come from C, C++, or C#, or even in general, VScript programming. The reason for this is that I will not be able to explain every single little bit, since most of this syntax is similar to stuff that's from those languages. I will highlight a few AngelScript specific things, like handles, and other little tidbits that are specific to the language. So with that out of the way, what is this tutorial going to be about? This is going to be different. I can't cover everything. This is a very big topic, and of course, I want to separate this out into several other tutorials for various central topics, like game events, custom entities, all that good stuff. But fortunately I can't cram that all into one video. So I'm hoping to make this a bit of a shorter series, a little small series on the side that won't be on the PMAM YouTube channel, but on my own personal channel. We'll see what comes of this, but for now, I'm going to be starting you off with the basics, helping you set up the IDE, preferably Visual Studio Code, extensions, making your files, starting off with ConVars and ConCommands, and we're also going to talk about some entity iteration, similar to that in VScript, and then I'm going to just showcase some of the other cool things you can do if AngelScript today. So right here, what you're seeing is a currently work in progress guide for AngelScript created by Endrict. I and him will be continuing to develop this as time goes on, with our expertise as we go on into AngelScript and as more details come out. This is currently not available in the public front-facing wiki right now, but there I'll be providing a link to it in the description below. Currently right now, as it's still a work in progress and is currently being worked on, there are still missing pieces and stuff that are not finished, but hopefully this introduction guide here will help you get started. If you do need any help, feel free to drop by the Portal 2 Community Discord server in the description below. Many of us are there to help out if you need help, and also I'll be around there to help out need be. Okay, so let's get started. First, make sure you have Visual Studio Code installed. If you don't, easy to look up, easy to install. A link to it will also be in the description below. Once you get it up, use it to open your Portal 2 Community Edition folder, specifically the smaller one. You can also choose to do the code folder specifically, which is where we're going to be sticking our files. Unlike VScript, AngelScript works in the code folder instead of the usual scripts and VScripts folder. Instead, we're going to just be focusing on this code folder here. Right here I got a few things already, but feel free to ignore it. If this is a brand new installation or you've not done AngelScript before, there should be nothing in here, and that's okay. First and foremost, we need to get you extension that will help you a bunch when working with AngelScript. This extension is the AngelScript language server extension. Here I already have it installed, but a link to it will be in the description below so you can install it. What this will help us do is do autocomplete, typing, making sure everything's colored correctly, and a bunch of other small little tweaks and features that will help you in your AngelScript journey. Once you have this installed, we're going to go and now get the dump file of all the AngelScript available in the engine from Portal 2 Community Edition. Fortunately, this file is not publicly available, there's not a good place to post it, and the AngelScript is always changing, so this file would have to be regularly updated. Thankfully, as long as you have Portal 2 Community Edition installed, you can easily get it from the engine. Start the game. From here, just load any map. In this case, we're going to load up our AngelScript test environment. Once you're loaded into a map, from there, open up the console. We're just going to type in VSV script system. There will be 3 different dump commands here. We're just going to focus on the one that's just dump and the one that says LSP. Do not worry about the JSON one. That is just a dump reference for the wiki. You don't need that. This first one here will provide you a HTML doc file. This doc file will be put into data server API reference.html. This data folder is relative to your game directory, or in this case, the smaller P2C folder. Data, server, and there it is. When you open this up, you should get something like this. Here is all the available types, variables, enums, and everything that's currently available in the AngelScript system. This file will provide you a whole list of available functions classes, but unfortunately right now not all the parameters for them or descriptions and documentation for them are available. This video might get out of date soon, and I'll make sure to make another new video once stuff has changed and been updated correctly. Once you got your HTML doc file, we're going to dump one more thing, and that will be the LSP. This LSP is the as.periodDefined file. It is for the language server. If you don't know what the language server is, it was the extension we got. This file will tell the language server what stuff we have available. Once again, this file will be located under the data folder. So if we go back here to Visual Studio, as you can see here, we got an as.periodDefined file. Here we can see all our enum flags for ConVars, solid types, going a bit more down, a lot of activities, string, dictionary, grid, a lot of math functions like matrices, vectors, planes. And as we go down more, we get to the more source engine types like ConVar, ConVarRef, collision properties, game events. There's a lot of stuff here. And again, I won't be able to cover all of this today, but this could also be a good reference for you to look at if you want. If you don't want to look at the HTML. Once you get this file, you now need to drag it into the root directory of the code folder. Here I already got one, so I don't need to go ahead and do it. But your one should just be placed here at the root folder. Great, you should be ready to now get started with AngelScript. Huzzah! Before we begin, I need to explain the difference between AngelScript and VScript a little more. VScript used to have two different VMs, a server and client. However, the server one was the only useful one, since there's no client-based things that VScript could do. Now, though, with AngelScript, there is a defined server-client boundary. This means that some things can have to be on the server and some things on the client. In the case of a local server, just you loading a normal map, the host is both the server and the client. In case of something like co-op, the server, in this case, would be the host, and clients would be anybody connected to this host. What this means is that some con commands, like server commands, can exist on the server to be private to clients, but client commands are local to the host. Meaning, if you make a certain con command, nobody can run it. This bit of information is very important for making our first file, sv_init.as. If we right-click code and do no file, we can go sv_init.as. As you can see, it is already recognized as an AngelScript file thanks to our extension. sv_init will be the server initialization file, or our entry point for all the AS that we need to load. There are other several types too, like clinit and init. clinit is for client loading, and init alone is just for server and client loading at the same time. These files are automatically run by the game, and do not require you to do anything in the maps in order for them to load. This feature is also in the VScript portion of P2CE, but this setup is more prominent in the AngelScript side. What if you wanted both client and server code? Well, in come if-defs. If you do if server and if, this defines this portion in the middle to only be run by the server. The same goes if you say client. We won't be needing this piece for this, since we're just going to be doing server-based code. Client stuff I will be doing later. Our first thing we're going to try making is a con command. Con command is short for console command, and this will just be a short function that will do whatever we need it to. AS is a specific system for defining various functions to be server commands, client commands. In our case, we need to use brackets, server command, open parentheses, and a string. This parameter is the name for a con command. So let's go ahead and name it just test server command. If you add another parameter here, this is the description for our server command. This is optional, not required. You can leave it blank, but you will still need it here for this to be a complete server command. Now, we need to bind this to an actual function. Let's go void, and let's do test func. And let's do that. Now we got our body of our function. Now there's one more important step for this to be a valid server command. In the parameter for a function, we need to do a const command args. Thanks to our autocomplete, we can just hit enter here. @ symbol and args. This is very important that it is a const and the @ symbols at the end. This @ symbol at the end of command args is called an AngelScript handle. Handles are similar to C and C++ pointers. However, these are reference count, meaning that if nothing is currently handling, looking at, or just working with the handle gets removed from memory. This is specifically used for stuff like command args and C-based entities, stuff or types that are handled by the engine and should be directly modified by the AngelScript. So what can we do with this? Well, if we go and open up our AS predefined aside, we can go F12. If we double click our command args and hit F12, you can open up the AS predefined and get to command args. It's moved over a little early. In command args is a class that has a argc function, get command string, arg, and a operator overload for brackets. Basically, with con commands, every con command has args passed to it. For example, we have test server command and say a number or multiple numbers. Those are passed to args and allow us to access those arguments for later. argc gives us a count of those arguments. And get command string gets the whole string that was inputted into the console. Okay, one more important thing. Because args and the args that are provided, they are an array of strings, with 0 being the command we've inputted. Typically, you don't need this, so the 0 index can be safely ignored. Okay, now that you got your server command set up, let's make it take in one input. Now, there is no defined way of saying, hey, take one input. We just need to check how many arguments there are. So we have at least argc, the count of arguments, and we have less than 2 number. So test server command is considered an argument. Then we can say we don't have enough arguments, and we can go message L and wrong. Okay. And we can return. Basically what this will be is that if we have no parameters and the only thing is test server command, it will go into here and return early. Say that means we're wrong, we typed in something wrong. This essentially means that you've typed something in wrong and you should report what went wrong. So now that we know we can have at least one argument, how do we get the arguments themselves? Let's store our first argument into a string. Argument 1. And from there, we just go args. And from there, you can also do either brackets or you can say arg. Either way, you have to give the index that you want or the argument in the list. Our first argument will always be 1. So what can we do with this? We can do anything, but it'll always be a string. Any argument will be returned as a string to our function. So let's just print it out. Args, message L, and argument 1. And ta-da! Now we have a functioning server command. And this is it. This is all you need to do to make AS work. So now what? What do we do in P2C itself? Well, if you got this far and everything's good, no syntax errors, this is red, meaning that something is wrong, we can just head to P2C. Another thing you should do before running a reload to trigger a automatic refresh and start our new AS is to open up the debug for AngelScript. If you press Shift and F1, making sure you have dev mode enabled for P2C, we get access to the IAM-GUI menu bar at the top. If we go under scripting, at the bottom here, these two specifically are AS related. These are up here are VScript, and you don't have to worry about them. The two we want here is script system output and script modules. Script system output will report any errors or anything else about AngelScript that could be wrong. This is useful for testing and making sure that everything's right, because those same errors can appear in console, but all this garbage here, it's hard to see. You can use something like ConFilter to filter out and find that stuff, but prefer to use the script system output here. Any message logs, though, do end up here and not out in here in the output. The other tool here is script modules. If we open this up, you can see nothing is currently loaded now under modules. You'll see what scripts, types, globals, how many of what is under here and defined and loaded by the AS script system. We can also get some other engine stats about how much memory it's currently using and objects created and destroyed. Okay, so let's do just a reload. Okay, so nothing has appeared in our output, so it must have worked right. So if we open up our console again and try typing in test ServerCommand, and voila, there's our ServerCommand. If we hit enter to run it, wrong. And ta-da, we have returned early because there's no arguments. So if we say test ServerCommand again, and let's just say the 1, 2, 3, it will output 1, 2, 3. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so that's simple stuff. Let's get a bit more complicated in this. Let's get started with a ConVar. ConVar is a console variable, something that'll persist even outside the map. These are registered. When you make a ConVar, it is registered by the engine, and it will allow you to store variables, whether it be floats, ints, strings, even colors. So making a ConVar is very easy. We can just say in our global scope up here, outside of our function, ConVar, the name of our ConVar, the ConVar, and similar to our ServerCommand, we have parentheses and we give it a name, the ConVar. I like that. Next, we need a default value for it. Let's give it 1, and any ConVar flags that we want. These are bit flags, and these can all be found at the very top here. Typically, all ConVars usually default to none, which is 0, and these other ConVar flags here help to do other effects, like marking is a cheat. Replicated means if it's changed in the server, it'll change on client. Hidden means it will not appear in the autocomplete for the console, but you can still input it. Development only, don't worry about this. This is for development only builds. We don't have access to that. Archive means it will get saved to save for next loads. Notify, is similar to SV cheats. Notify will make a text message in game mentioning if it has been changed. There are a bunch of these. Right now, we don't need to worry about this. We can do this in another bit, or you can experiment on your own. For now, we're just going to use f's ConVar none. And end it off. And that's it. Now we've got our ConVar. So with ConVar here in the global scope, we can easily access it. Under the ConVar, we can see that we can get a bool's color, the default parameter. We can reset it to the default parameter, and we can set its value. Okay, but what if our ConVar, or our ConVar, is not in the global scope? Let's just say it's in another file. Let's make this file right now. If we go new file, naming this ConVar, caps lock, ConVar.as. Now we can move the ConVar into our ConVar file. Okay. Now, this ConVar file will not be loaded by AS automatically. We have to tell it to load this file. To get our ConVar from a different file, we can say include caps lock, and keep it in my caps lock, and ConVar. This path to our AS file is relative, by the way. For example, if we put our ConVar.as under this entities folder here, we would need to say entities/convar.as. So now we can still access the ConVar from here. And that's easy peasy. Get ConVar, get bool. Oops, got a failing typo. Thank you, autocomplete. Get bool, all that good stuff. So we're just gonna do get bool. We're gonna do message L and slap that in there. And this will be print out. Let's just do .int, because I do need to show you something here. So normally the input for message L is a string. Using .getInt is fine alone, but let's say we want to include some other bit of text with it. You can do this. You can add it to a string, la 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 la, and that works just fine. But one thing I recommend using is another thing called dot format. If you put a dot after our string here, we can say dot format. And in here, if you're familiar with C and C++ varargs, we can simply just stick our the convar.getInt in here, add back the parentheses, and then put in brackets. And then what this will do is it will automatically stick the value of the convar.getInt into the place of these brackets. So we can say the convar. And then this should be, if our convar hasn't changed, 1. So let's go test that right now. Load. All it's good. And we look up the convar. There it is. So it's currently 1 right now. If you type in just the convar, you can see that it's saying what the current value is. So if we do test server command, still wrong. And we say 1, 2, 3. Let's say 1, 2, 3 and the convar. If I do convar 4, 5, 6 and do it again, it is changed. Huzzah! So what if we wanted to access a engine convar? We don't have it here, and we can't just define an engine convar. AS won't like that. So this is where it comes in ConVar reference. ConVar reference, as it implies, is a reference to a convar. So we can access an existing convar's reference. Let's say even though we have our include convar.as, but even our own stuff is not accessible by include. We can say ConVarRef, and the name of our variable to represent that convar. We're going to get gravity here. So gravity and sv underscore gravity. And that's that. Now we have access to gravity convar. So if I do message L, gravity, get string. So that done, go back, reload, and do task command, serve command, 1, 2, 3. We can see the current value of gravity there. And if we even check gravity itself, we can see it is 600. And if we were to change that to 100, we can see it does notify, because this is a notify convar, which you can do to your own convars. And we do serve command 1, 2, 3, it is changed. So again, ConVar is another basic thing you can do. Helpful to store variables and other stuff. And I'll just also type that. So there we go. ConVars, another simple thing to use. So what else is there to do? What if we want to interact with entity? Because I mean, like, we got C-based entity in here. C-based entity gives us access to, if we go to C-based entity, you can see there's a lot to do here. Team number, eye position angles, getting vectors of direction, health. Not everything is here compared to the actual C-based entity. If you were to look at it in like 2013 SDK, a lot of stuff here is already available for us to work with. You can even get key values, which is really helpful. Okay, so let's say let's make our convar do something a bit more different this time. Let's make it get all the triggers and output their sizes. So I'm gonna make a quick another quick convert here in a sec, and then I'll get back to you. Okay. Hi, welcome back. Here I've made us our little function here that we're going to use to do our entity iteration, and it's just going to get trigger sizes. Here I'm be displaying the class name, entity name, if it's a BSP model, meaning if this is a trigger you made in a hammer or it's one you just spawned in the game, and then the size of it, both the individual min and max sizes as well as the overall size. Okay, so how do we get our individual triggers? If you've worked with any iterations, VScript is very similar, where you can just say cbase entity handle, very specific to handle, because everything involving cbase entities will be handles. We're going to do start from null, meaning that we're going to tell it to start an iteration. Do at end, meaning we're going to be assigning this handle with a another entity. Do entity list and next and end. Now this will assign it, but we need to make sure that this is still not a null, because if we get to null, that means we've hit the end of our entity list. And voila. Now we'll be able to iterate over all entities, but we want to get just triggers. Now I can do a specific trigger class with, let's say, find by class name, but that's not get all the triggers of various types. So how do we filter that out? First and foremost, just like pointers, we need to make sure that ent is still a valid thing, just in case something slips through. At ent and null, then we want to continue, thank you. And we want to make sure that it is in fact a trigger type. And if we do ent dot get class name, then we use another thing for strings, locate. Our first parameter for locate will be the string we want to look for. We're just going to look for a trigger, and then where we start looking for it will be 0, or the very start of the string. And then we say if it's not equal to 0, meaning it is not found at the beginning. Then we just do continue. Okay, great. So this will go through, it will get rid of any invalid entities, assuming that this is next doesn't give us invalid stuff. It normally should, but this is just in case. And we'll locate trigger. Okay, but as you can see here, we're still missing stuff. We're missing getting the sizes and stuff. So, cool thing that we can do out of our entity class is ent.collisionProp. And collisionProp is a base class which will provide us a bunch of helpful collision data, or a return collision property which will give us collision data, like our oriented bounding box, bounding radius, and we can even set the size of it, and we can get its origin, a few more things. This isn't all the collision stuff, as vPhysics is a separate thing, as in iPhysics class. But we're just doing the collision properties for now. So we're going to want to store the size, the min size first. So let's just do get mins. Now, we can just stick this into our formatting here, but as you can see here, I've done something specific. I split out the vector so that you don't have to call this again and again. It gets too long, because this is already pretty long, this message out here. So we're going to store this into a vector and call it ent min size. And voila. Now we're storing min size. And we can just do the same thing for max. So I would do Control V and Control V. We can easily stick the next thing in. Instead of doing max, Control arrow key over a bit, and go to ent max size. And boom, now we got the max size in. And even though we already got our min and max technically, let's just get the overall size. So ent size and get top size. You get rid of the extra parentheses. And voila, there, we have defined everything that's needed for this function. Notice how I didn't use args at all. You don't need args for everything. You don't need to track arguments. If you need args, you use args pretty much. But in our case, for our script here, if I go to back to here and reload, no errors, that's a good sign. And I do get trigger size. And running it, it gets all the triggers available. So I have two trigger catapults in this map. And each are catapult and catapult 1. Both of these are BSP models because I made these in Hammer. And they each have min and max sizes. They're different sizes. Because one over here is smaller than the one over here. Okay, so that's some entity interaction. What if we wanted to, and this is gonna get real crazy. Let's spawn some stuff in. For how many triggers there are, let's spawn in something. C base entity. There you go. Yes. Ent, or let's just say new ent because we already got ent going. New ent equals, and say util and create class by name. Don't worry about the T one for now. That'll be covered in a different tutorial. It just has to do with template casting. And we want a prop button. And then this will hit a new prop button to our map. Okay, so what we're going to do with this prop button, we're gonna stick it at the position of those triggers. So we say new int set abs origin, and we're just gonna say ent and yet absolute origin. So this should now create 2 prop buttons and set them at the triggers. Okay, let's reload and test our connect. Now we got our output here. Where's our buttons? There's an important thing we need to know about entities in this engine. You can create an entity, but that's not going to call all the functions to set it up and run it correctly. Normally, that is done by the engine when you load a map. It will add in the entities and it'll run the spawn and any other functions it needs. Pre-caching all the models and such and sounds, all that stuff. But that's not what's happening here because we are missing the piece to even call it the spawn. Because the game won't do this for us. Create entity by name won't do this for us. But this is really easy. We can just say ent new spawn. Typically, you only need to call this once. You should not call this multiple times. In our case, this is fine because we're just making a new ent, we're spawning it, setting its position, and then we're going back again. So, if we go here, we'll reload. Everything's good. Get trigger size. And voila! There are buttons. I can go over and interact with them. They're a little buggy in some cases. They're not meant to be spawned like this. A lot of entities in the engine are not meant to just spawn directly. Usually they need a few other functions to correctly work. As you can see, it's not working again. Some things don't like being spawned, but hey, we can spawn other things. Like let's say we have a bunch of Barneys here. Or we can do suits. Let's do item suit. You can just say NPC Barney. And reload again. No, it's very easy to reload. It just edits something, reload. It's very fast. It's just like VScript. Run a command. That was gravity, not a command. And there are Barneys. One of them did. I think, yeah. One of them fell through because there's no collision here. But yeah, we got Barneys. Okay. So that's spawning entities. And you can just easily manipulate them as is, like an AngelScript. And not all entities like being spawned directly like this. So be careful when you do, because sometimes the game will even crash if you do something wrong. Because there's still a few issues. 2 checks are not there, and so on and so forth. But hey, you have a lot of power with this. Okay, so that's just a few things you can do so far with AngelScript. I am just covering the surface layer. Very small, easy things you can do, small little script stuff. But hey, there's a lot more stuff we can do. So let me show you a few more of these things. A few things I've been working on, including just debugging and testing and stuff that even you can do eventually. So let's disable this one, this SV underscore here. Let's disable 2 because we don't want that one to load anymore. And we're going to go to this one here. And this one here is going to load a few more different things. We're going to talk about ASLib on another video because it is a separate library that me and Eric are working on, but you don't need to worry about that. But I want to focus on this prompt faceplate. So this is a custom entity right here. And we just drag this over, and this file is really big. Most of this is mostly my stuff that's debugging, fixing things, and trying to get this ready because this is currently not complete. But it is a almost working entity. It has its own key values. It has outputs below here. We got our inputs, and then I'll scroll up a bit more. Oop, I passed it. We have our pre-cache and spawn functions. When it spawns, a bunch of debug's going to occur. It's going to pre-cache. It's going to set its model, spawn, all this good stuff. Now that you can easily do in AngelScript compared to something like VScript, which the functions can be made available, but it's a lot easier to do in this language with some of the flags you can set. The most important thing about making a custom entity is you need to tag your class as an entity class. This is very important. If you don't, then your entities are not going to be recognized. So if we go back now to the game and we're going to reload, right in front of us will be our faceplate. Let me also close this for now. So there should be no errors. You can see I have a model, has collisions, and I spawn a trigger on top. It's nameless because this is, and if we do get trigger size, it is not a BSP model one. Ooh. So normally this cannot be seen with show triggers toggle because it doesn't have the texture data included with it. Show triggers toggle. See, it works here, but it doesn't work here. Right now, I just got a VScript drawing a box. And if I put a cube on, it launches it. No sounds right now, no animation right now, but that is on the way. Okay, so yeah, here's another thing you can do. Weapons. So another big selling point for AngelScript is weapons. You could make other custom weapons before with VScript. You can do some things, but this makes it a lot easier because it's working with the actual engine classes. So here we got a AK-47. This is a recreation attempt on me to make the AK-47. And there is a script on the VDC that I've been basing it off of to recreate. Big tip also. The VDC will be your friend in this also because it talks about all the normal SCK code. All that stuff is applicable here because most of it matches. It's like primary tac and reload and item preframe. That stuff's all already documented in the VDC for you. If it's not on the StrataWiki, the VDC will be your friend. So, okay, let's go back to the game. And as you can see here, I can pick it up and it works. And I get a soup. At the bottom right, you can see we got an ammo count. It's a little buggy right now. It works. Notice how it is a little off. Some weapons shooting is buggy right now. World models, simply because the shell doesn't have a world model to hold the AK, but also holding it is different. But hey, it automatically reloads. It makes a sound. Animations work. And at bare minimum for a weapon script, all you need is a spawn and pre-cache. So you can call the base class pre-cache and spawns. And primary tac, just calling base primary tac. You don't need this stuff. This is just that view kit can try and delay the clicking, the delay firing, reload, the preframe stuff. If you at least call the base class, then it works. You can use that and a weapon script. Weapon script is very also important. Here's the one that I'm currently using. As long as the models are defined, print names, sound data, all this stuff is also very easy. You can just copy and paste from another weapon and set it to a right ammo. I've had to change it to SMG ammo because the normal 7.62 is not available in this engine. Then you get a working, mostly working AK-47. So yeah, that's a bunch of stuff you can do with AS right now. There will be a lot more I want to cover in the future because I'm really excited about what is going to be exposed to the API for you to use. But I hope this tutorial helped you well in getting started with AngelScript. Right now, as a recording, this is under the private beta for P2C, so it is only available to those with P2C right now. But again, P2C soon. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed, and hope to see you watch my other tutorials in the future. Goodbye!